Namaste and welcome. Today I will be reading a response to online comments and speaking out against the aggression directed both at myself and other women. I stand in solidarity with my sisters against both the passive variety of aggression, such as dismissal, silencing, shame, or ridicule, and the aggressive variety of outright verbal or physical abuse. In spiritual truth, my Sangha sister once said before she died, "My body is just a body, but my spirit is beyond me." And when a woman's spiritual truth is rooted first in her spirit, she finds the source of true self-esteem within her own body, and becomes an agent of change for women's empowerment and equality. When we see through the conditioning in our minds and bodies, we can use spirituality as a tool to illuminate the false and disempowering conditioning that we have all received about women in society. By exposing this conditioning, we also expose the very seeds of all forms of abuse, control, and violence. Exposing false conditioning is not a complaint. It is not a game. False conditioning for women can manifest as a violent abuser. Exposing such seeds of violence can only lead to greater empowerment and positive social change. Indeed, Gloria Steinem feels that women's empowerment and equality is the very root and key to resolve all forms of social inequality and injustice across this planet. One comment that was written in response to one of my videos, in which I am defending myself from love against verbal and physical abuse, says, "Watching a bit of your video, compassionately and directly, you think way too much. Relax. The only problem we have truly is self-obsession. And the fact is that the self-centered programming has very refined strategies and tricks to keep us feeding this self-obsession even through using spiritual truths." Perhaps this comment was written without knowing that this video I made was in response to aggression and was in fact a form of self-esteem. Perhaps it was also sent without the full understanding that I am offering insights from within experiences of great physical pain. There are many other teachers who can speak more clearly to issues of self-obsession or overthinking, but I am not one of those teachers. I am offering strength, wisdom, love, and courage from within intense experiences of pain, and I find with such experiences there is a natural and human element of seriousness, a natural call for compassion, and speaking my own truth becomes a form of advocacy. My own experience of awakening is intimately intertwined with 10 years of an illness that manifests as bladder and vagina pain, and this was brought about by a medical malpractice of prescribing a drug I should not have been taking. I do not speak openly about this illness or about vagina pain without sharing the full truth of my experience, which is that my body is just a body, but my spirit is beyond me, in great pain. If everything can vanish before you, you cannot vanish. You yourself are always whole and loved and free. I do not seek to shame or humiliate others, or deny other people's truths, experiences, or opinions. I do seek to share the full and honest truth of my experience in all of its spiritual wisdom, the same way that other teachers, like Krishnamurti, have also chosen to do so, in the name of love and wisdom. Krishnamurti did not receive pity when he experienced spiritual awakening within the severe physical pain of ongoing headaches. He was treated with respect for his wisdom, and he once said, "I have a headache today. Will that prevent me from looking at myself? Obviously not. I can look at myself though I have a headache. I can look at myself though I am exhausted. I can watch myself very carefully. I am tired, but I am watching." Krishnamurti is saying that we are always free, no matter the condition of our minds or our bodies. My body is just a body, but my spirit is beyond me, he says. And this highly intelligent man, who offered the great wisdom of his spiritual awakening within severe pain, was not called self-obsessed or told he was thinking too much when he chose to share his wisdom. I wonder sometimes why I risk being called stuck or self-obsessed when I speak with the authority of Krishnamurti and offer wisdom from within my own awakening in the midst of severe pain. Am I not totally equal to Krishnamurti in mind and body and spirit? Isn't my pain as a woman equal to any pain experienced by a man? Should it not be treated with the same seriousness? Isn't my eternal wisdom one with his eternal wisdom? Because as a young woman, I find all too often that based on my appearance alone, if I say I offer wisdom, I risk being called self-obsessed. And if I say I am confident, I might be called arrogant. If I speak with intelligence, I might be told I am thinking too much or that I have too big of an ego. If I say I love you, I might be called silly. And if I tell you I care deeply about the state of humanity, I might be dismissed as over-idealistic or called a sweetheart. If I speak with power, I might be told I am cold or uncaring. If I laugh from freedom, I might be told I am crazy. And if I cry from empathy, I might be told I am hysterical. If I tell you I am calm and brave in the midst of pain or crisis, I might be told I am closed off or stuck. If I tell you I am done searching for my truth, then I might be told I am not quite there yet. If I offer humility, I might be told I don't love myself. And if I offer vulnerability, then I might be taken advantage of. I am saying all of this out loud because in the midst of this invisible pain and invisible disability, I can clearly see these invisible games that would make anyone feel crazy, whether you are a man or a woman, whether you are in pain or no pain. This experience of pain cuts through what is false within these games and goes straight to the heart of God, who is never playing games, never sees anyone as less than perfect, never sees anyone as unfinished, and never treats anyone as unserious. God sees all people and all women as whole and loved and courageous and free. My Sangha sister Britney Spears illuminated this same conditioning in her song Piece of Me. I'm Mrs. Oh my God, that Britney's shameless. I'm Mrs. Extra Extra, this just in. I'm Mrs. She's too big, now she's too thin. This disempowering game of conditioning in which women are never told they are good enough, always too big or too thin, is an example of how many women might unconsciously feel that we are never quite there yet, never good enough, and the result is that many women are held under relentless criticism, which might shame them into silence. As a woman, we can refuse to accept this game and refuse to be silenced. Like Elizabeth Warren says, #nevertheless, she persisted. It's a relief that, in the eyes of God, the truth is that none of this game is true for me or for you or for anyone. The truth is that I'm just free as I am, and you're just free as you are, and God loves you. If you take me at my word and I take you at yours, we might transcend the conditioning that tells us we can never be right, never be complete, never be whole, and never be full in our own personal power in the eyes of the conditioning of the world. But we protest old conditioning when we see first through the eyes of God from inside, prioritize spirit over form, and persist in knowing that we are free and whole and loved always. In great pain, I ask the question, with whose vision are we seeing when the lights of consciousness are going out? Is this not God's own clear vision, the only one that survives unconsciousness? What's so wrong from this perspective with thinking or being intelligent or confident? I enjoyed watching a commercial I saw on TV recently that asks the question, what if Millie Dresselhaus, female scientist, was treated like a celebrity? Is it arrogance for a woman to enter the field of science, even after her own awakening? Is it arrogance to tell you that my own spiritual awakening led me to follow my own inner guidance into a powerful role as a 26-year-old female art director in a U.S. government science lab, #balance the equation? If a spiritual awakening means that a woman stops thinking and loses her confidence and power, then I must see more eternal wisdom in my Sangha sister Demi Lovato than the great sages of old. What's wrong with being confident? Demi Lovato sings. What is wrong is dismissing a woman's confidence, empowerment, and accomplishments as selfishness or ego, and thus denying the truth of her spirit. By dismissing intelligence and confidence with spiritual terms like thinking and ego, we misuse spirituality as a means of controlling women's freedom. By teaching women to further doubt themselves, to not trust our inner wisdom. Doubting the truth of our inner wisdom is something that I see often and something that feminist activist Gloria Steinem addresses in her book, Revolution from Within. She says hierarchies try to convince us that all power and well-being come from the outside, that our self-esteem depends on obedience and measuring up to requirements. It is frustrating to be told by an old system of hierarchy that we are not quite perfect unless an authority like a therapist or a guru has confirmed this for you. It is much more challenging to take the next step in our collective freedom and ignore these outside judgments and assessments and instead listen only to our innermost soul. When a woman protests from her spirit, her soul, the false idea that she is ever not free or ever unawakened, she faces the potential for escalating aggression. When she knows beyond doubt that she is not wrong for following her inner truth, and denies believing in what others tell her about her imperfections, then the world might insist either that she has low self-esteem, mental instability, or a problem with authority, too much arrogance. She's too big or she's too thin. The next step, when she openly defies this passive form of aggression, is the potential for outright aggression. Just relax is a phrase I have heard in the past, but would you be relaxed when faced with violence, rejection, or aggression? Would you be relaxed in the midst of attack? Because when I watch Hillary Clinton these days, I begin to understand why she does not look relaxed. She does not lack competence or confidence, as the media might suggest. She is being attacked for nothing more than owning her own power as a woman. This outright aggression is evident in an open letter I read on the internet directed at Gloria Steinem that reads, "Gloria Steinem, I have heard your trash for 40 years. It started with Cosmo magazine and ended with my mother following your dirt until I fought for your pathetic, self-serving right to complain. Now I respected your rights as a feminist, telling women they should hate men, thus respect the rights of this prior technical sergeant. When I say dig a hole, eat that hole, live in that hole and pray for your obnoxious salvation. Dig it, eat it. Gosh, you look exactly like what you are inside. Rot. Hashtag old woman." While the tone and level of aggression appears different between what is directed at myself and what is directed at Gloria, they are in fact coming from the very same seed of the way we are conditioned to view and treat women. It is hard for anyone to relax, especially a woman, when she is faced with outright aggression. I have watched, even in spiritual communities, as mild, passive comments that dismiss a woman's truth, disguised as compassionate advice, show themselves as the seeds of violence that they are and escalate in a matter of minutes into a mob mentality of outright verbal and emotional abuse. What we see from such experiences is that aggression is always hiding, even at the heart of passive aggression, and undoing our conditioning should not be taken lightly. Gloria Steinem describes in her book that before Gandhi began his protest, he tried everything he could to be like the British. This ended abruptly one day when he was thrown off a train for no other reason than his skin color, and he realized that if his skin color would always humiliate him, if he was going to be dishonored as an Indian, he would live as an Indian. And I have also found that even within spiritual freedom and as my role as spiritual teacher, if I will always face the potential for being dishonored and humiliated for being a woman, then I will use that spiritual freedom to advocate for all women's freedom. In spirituality, when we hear terms like ego and thinking, this ego is violence to women, and a woman's transcendence of ego, of disempowering conditioning, inside and outside, could save her own life and the lives of others. Most women have not been conditioned for self-obsession. They have been conditioned for low self-esteem and to fear trusting ourselves and speaking our truth. The true self-obsession for many women is taking other people's judgment and criticism so seriously that we constantly constrain and control ourselves, feel that something is wrong. Many women have been conditioned to look outside of ourselves for feedback and to take other people's opinions more seriously than our own. If a woman dares trust her inner wisdom, she risks being labeled as self-centered or arrogant. But true freedom does not control or minimize another's experiences, and telling someone to relax when they are speaking out from courage and love against the experience of aggression is to minimize the experience of all women who experience pain or aggression. What if a woman didn't care about approval, did not have low self-esteem, and simply walked around owning her own truth and power? If she faces violence, dismissal, and aggression for her truth, does that mean that something is wrong with her or her truth? Or worse, did she do something to bring it upon herself, as our culture is so insistent on telling us? Many women are naturally in tune with their own spiritual freedom, but perhaps we aren't seeing as many women express their full freedom, not because they are not awake, but because of the reasonable fear of aggression and violence. To be clear, fear of violence is not low self-esteem. It is a natural human response. If you are publicly disrespected and humiliated as a woman, and even if you just held your ground for one moment without fear, that would be freedom enough, don't you think? The divine feminine is not deluded or less awake than her male counterparts, but she does face the threat of being silenced or experiencing aggression. Just because a woman chooses to speak out does not make her bitchy, and it does not mean she does not feel love and compassion. On the flip side, just because a woman chooses to defend herself from love does not mean she has low self-esteem. A woman's full freedom and behavior exists beyond our narrow cultural stereotypes. And many women don't want to be lectured about their own awakening. They want to live fearlessly. They want the encouragement to live and express their freedom fully. The sisterhood can strengthen each other in freedom of expression, but it can only be done through solidarity. Jealousy and envy are the enemies of the sisterhood, and it is time we honor our own sisters as beautiful, powerful, and divine, instead of tearing each other down to compete for approval, validation, or affection. What if women were so free of all approval and validation that we were free of the very fear of being labeled as arrogant, and instead just owned our own confidence and power? Maybe at least one woman on the earth should be so arrogant that she declares herself free, no matter the circumstances, and declares that God loves her and loves you. That would be the best use of arrogance. What I find interesting is how myself I have perceived other powerful women like Hillary Clinton to be arrogant, until I realized that this is the same seed of disempowering conditioning against all women. And in spiritual awakening, we might come to view ourselves and other women differently. Instead of perceiving her as arrogant, I see now she is competent, intelligent, and confident. Thank you, Hillary, for being arrogant enough to run for president and not being relaxed about remaining in the public eye after your defeat. I can see, although the voice of the media has tried to paint your character as cold or uncaring, that your demeanor is not arrogance, but confidence, and your strength is unwavering. Thank you, Hillary Clinton, for defending our sister Elizabeth Warren when she was silenced in the middle of her speech. Quote, "She was warned, she was given an explanation, nevertheless she persisted." Clinton quoted in her tweet, "So must we all." Thank you, Elizabeth Warren, for not listening to outer criticism and instead listening to the voice of truth within. Thank you for not remaining silent and continuing to challenge injustices in Washington. Thank you, Millie Dresselhaus, for thinking way too much and contributing to the advancement of women in science, and indeed to all of science. Hashtag old woman. Hashtag balance the equation. Thank you, Emma Watson, for not being relaxed about bringing feminist empowerment to the world through your book group, where I first encountered the extraordinary wisdom of Gloria Steinem. Thank you also for risking arrogance and self-obsession when you spoke for the UN He for She campaign. Thank you, Amal Clooney, for using your arrogant, too much thinking, genius confidence power to stand in solidarity with our Yazidi sisters against the injustices of war crimes against women. Your advocacy is spiritual truth. Thank you for risking being labeled self-obsessed and ego-driven as a young and beautiful female lawyer and advocate for true justice in the midst of horrific abuse and crimes against humanity. Thank you, Gloria Steinem, for being self-obsessed enough to write your book, Revolution from Within, a book of self-esteem. Because I have another word for what happens when a woman finds the strength of God inside and breaks free of the disempowering perception of self-obsession. And it's the same word you use. It's called self-esteem. A revolution from within is when an inner awakening looks like the young female protester named Safia Khan, who stood up in solidarity with another young woman when up to 25 men surrounded her. With no fear present in her being, she flashed her Buddha smile, and her eyes held the wisdom of a sage as she demonstrated the non-violent courage of Gandhi by standing in solidarity with her Sangha sister amid an aggressive confrontation. The media tries to portray fearless women with the same old, tired headlines, such as "She proved she isn't afraid to throw on a daring outfit." But I see in this young woman a different kind of headline. She proved she wasn't afraid to risk her own life for the freedom of herself and her sisters and the freedom from all forms of oppression. Gloria, you said you wrote Revolution from Within because you had not seen literature that translated an inner spiritual awakening into outer social change. What I write about in my own book, The Hidden Value of Not Knowing, falls into this category. Because if a woman finds the source of God and the wisdom of life itself inside, and trusts herself beyond doubt and reason, especially in times of pain and trial, she is beyond fear. And her very presence in this world is truly a revolution from within. The story I told in a previous video of remaining centered in your own spiritual truth, as if a bumblebee has landed on your heart, is no joke. A woman's spiritual empowerment is no joke. If you remain calm and at peace, beyond fear and listening to your own heart in the midst of aggression, just like this young protester, then all women can change the entire world. The laughing look of love and freedom on her face as she is marched away by the police is the radiance of the goddess herself, manifest in the human form, the revolution from within. With so much love.